Welcome to Below the Surface, the podcast where we go beyond the small talk and dive deep into the conversations that matter.
From personal growth to the complexities of human behaviour, we explore the stories, ideas and experiences that shape our world without the fluff.
Expect raw, thought-provoking discussions with fascinating guests and plenty of insights to challenge the way that you think.
So if you're ready to look below the surface, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it. Hello. So who is Pearl Duffy?
Okay, so I always start with the fact that I'm a mum, 3 kids, a wife, and a sister. They're kind of the most important things to me. That's me. Obviously, I work in healthcare. I'm a nurse. That's my basic background, and now I'm a therapist. It's a big part of what I do. But who am I? That's a really good question. I guess as a therapist, I'd be saying there's lots of different parts of me.
Would you fully identify yourself as I don't want to say just a therapist, but...
No. My family is the most important thing to me. It's therapy is my job. That's what I do. It's obviously caring has been a huge part of my life. Like I've been nursing since I was 20. And in a caring profession since I left school. I wanted to do social care was my original thing, and there was far too much paperwork. I was like, no, this is not for me. And then I always wanted to do nursing. I knew I wanted to do something caring because as a kid, I'm really, we grew up on a farm, and I was always the one caring the puppy that wouldn't survive the litter, saving the donkey down the field, and mad about animals. But I didn't really want to do anything to do with animals. So I suppose the next thing, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was my sister that gave me really good advice and said, I think you'd make a great nurse, Pearl. And I was like, oh, okay, then I'll do that. That's a great idea. And then realised I didn't pick biology for my leaving cert. Because I had a really bad career guidance. Really bad.
Okay.
Yeah. And... so that was a bit difficult. And then we were looking at pathways in, and like I wasn't really academic in school. I kind of at the time believed that I wasn't that smart, and I couldn't really do a whole pile, but I actually didn't realise I was dyslexic.
Okay.
All right.
So I did social care in Cavan, and coming towards the end of it, I was finding the placements really difficult. And so I had this lovely lecturer, and she was saying, why do you work in the children's ward? I know someone there and she might get you in. And I was like, oh yeah, because that's what I want to do. And I was looking at applying to do nursing in Northern Ireland or in England. And then I landed to the children's ward, and I absolutely hated it.
Did you?
I was like, I can't do this. They're all screaming and crying and they want their mums. They don't even, you have this ideal picture of what it's going to be like.
Yeah. Lovely little kids that'll be cuddling you and that.
So then I was kind of losing interest, I think. I was losing interest in trying to find my way. And she pulled me to one side and she said, listen, if you don't complete your placements, you can't complete the course. So you have to do that. And I was like, but what am I going to do? Where can I go? And she said, I have this amazing hostel. And it's for people with schizophrenia. And I actually think you'd be really good at it.
Oh, wow.
And they're willing to take you.
To take in.
I was like, what?
That's intense.
What? They're going to kill me. They're all going to murder me. I was like, I can't go there. And I remember I was dating this guy at the time. He wasn't the best guy. But anyway, I used to smoke really heavily up until I was about 26. And I smoked about 50 fags on the way up to this place going, I have to do, what am I going to do? Oh my God, they're all going to kill me. This is awful. Like I was in a state. And it was just brilliant. It was the start of my mental health career, because I loved it.
That's where it first started.
Yeah.
And what was it like
so
working with people with
they were living
schizophrenia?
independently. They were well. They were in recovery. So, this was like, I'd say a similar house to like this. And people were just needing support, but living really, really well. And that was my whole, I suppose, understanding of people with schizophrenia or mental health or any of those issues was they're dangerous. And they're not at all dangerous. Like
That's the way they're perceived.
Yeah. So met some amazing people, some incredible nurses. Was very inspired, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I can see me doing. So then I went back and I applied to do mental health nursing in London, and I had to
Okay.
do an interview, and I got in, and that's when I went. And that
Wow.
was it.
So in terms of mental health nursing, did you do therapies? So was that the first stepping stone into the mental health? So obviously going into the schizophrenia unit was the first step.
It
And
was
then,
my exposure, I think, to mental health, but
Okay.
it's not the first step. People can just apply straight from the Leaving Cert now
oh, right,
and
okay.
go straight into nursing college. We had to do interviews.
Okay.
I think they should bring back the interview, personally. I think it would be a good thing because you can get the points. Points are quite high at the minute in Ireland for nursing. But if you don't have the personality,
It's
and
more
you don't have
personal,
the
the
ability
interview,
to
isn't
be
it?
able
Yeah.
to speak to someone, make eye
Yeah.
contact with someone.
Yeah.
Bit of bedside manner.
Yeah, exactly. We need to bring back the old caring, just sitting with someone, just talking to someone. It's gone very medical,
Yeah.
really medical model.
So then in terms of going down into the different styles or the different models of therapy that you do, so what are all the categories of types of therapy that you can tick the box of, so to speak?
Okay. Well, CBT, cognitive
Okay.
behavioral therapy, is what I first trained in, and obviously EMDR therapy, and I have a certificate in mindfulness as well.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So I think CBT is something that a lot of people have heard of. EMDR, not so much.
Yeah.
I have heard about it myself. I've heard of the term for a while, but never really known exactly what it was. Now I knew it was associated with a rapid eye movement, but can you explain to us a bit how it actually works?
There's a lot of research on why EMDR works, and no one can really explain explicitly why. But a lot of the theories is that it opens up the neural networks of the brain. So trauma and difficult memories that get stuck just are allowed to be processed, are allowed to be opened up and desensitized so that they can flow and move to a part of our brain where we filter and where we just say, well, that's in the past and this is in the now. So the main idea around the therapy is that if you're experiencing something in the moment and it's very traumatic, so if I'm in a car crash and the lorry is coming towards me and I think in that moment, I'm going to die, these are my last seconds, that's the worst trauma you can experience. Of all the traumas, I'm going to be attacked or this is going to hurt. They're awful. But I'm going to die is the worst one of all the ones that can get laid down as trauma. Because if you're dead, you're dead. It's the ultimate worst thing that can happen to
Yeah.
you. And so it can get stuck and lodged. And your body, literally, I always say to people, when you experience an emotion, where do you feel it? So when you're sad, where do you feel sad?
In your body somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. And then you have thoughts that go with it, that I feel sad or I'm lonely, nobody cares about me. But you feel it in your body. So when you feel I'm about to die, you're having a major anxiety in your body. And the body is very good at keeping the score. The body will remember that and go, okay, this is not good. So I need to remember that because we can't be in that position again. So what might happen is someone might then experience every time they get into the car that kind of panicky feeling and an anxious feeling. And then they might start to develop some safety behaviours like I'm going to really slow down and drive really slowly, or I'm going to be constantly hypervigilant, checking, or I won't go on motorways anymore, I'll only go on side roads. You know, so it can have it, or people will actually not go in the car.
That's just the
Or-
defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's the body's way of finding a solution to a problem that's no longer existing. Because you're not.
Because your body doesn't know any different, is it?
Yeah,
your body doesn't know that.
Body
it's-
just knows. So fear is kind of experienced through your five senses. So seeing fear, you can taste fear. So if something is disgusting, you can touch something that's really hot and go, oh gosh, that's dangerous. And you can physically, hear something. A loud noise could be really frightening. So when you get into a car, it's all the physical sensations. I know we're using this as one example, but it's the least traumatic kind of example to
Yes,
give.
yeah.
Sitting into the car, feeling the motion of the car, holding the steering wheel in your hand. So sometimes when I've processed with people and they've been in car accidents, they'll literally start to get pains up and down their legs where they were hit. Their hands will grip
Wow.
like they're gripping a steering wheel, and then it will gently kind of release. And they'll be like, okay, I know now, I'm safe now, I survived. So their body's not trapped in, I'm going to die. Does that make sense?
It does make sense,
makes
yeah.
sense, yeah.
So can you talk us through a small, because I know that listeners might be still like, but how does it work? So, so we know that's the principle of what
Yeah.
actually happens.
Yeah.
But how do you take a person through that?
So you would discuss the memory. You don't need to know or relive. So that's the most important thing with EMDR. You're not getting someone to relive, because actually each time someone relives a situation, you're re-traumatizing them. And that was something I learned very early on in working and dealing with trauma and learning about trauma. So I learned about trauma before I did EMDR therapy. And so I've lost my train of track now as to the question you were asking me, because I wanted to go down a whole other route there. But what was it? So
So-
how does it work?
Yeah,
So
well,
it's the bilateral stimulation.
Okay.
So it's the left side and right side of the brain. So you're stimulating left to right, and it creates neurological flow. So you are desensitizing something that is like massively traumatic to the point where it comes down to the point where you can go, okay, that was awful, but I'm alive and I survived. When you are up into the I'm going to die, I'm terrified, you can't, your logic brain can't engage with your anxious part of your brain. The two can't be online together. So if I'm terrified and I'm anxious, I can't really be in my logic brain and figure out a math solution or figure something out. So you want to kind of desensitize it, and you do that by doing eye movement, and then you're able to logically allow the flow to come. So when I'd be working with people with CBT, we would get to a point where, when I was working with PTSD in particular, someone would say, I know I'm okay now, but I just don't feel it. I just don't feel like I'm okay. Like I still feel anxious, or I wake in the morning, I still feel a little bit. So I was like, what am I going to do with this? This seems torturous, because the model of CBT and PTSD is you make the person relive it and relive it and relive it until they desensitize. So they tell the story over and over and over again, and they imagine being in the crash over and over and over again. It just seemed really cruel to me. And when I went on a trauma training course, the lady that was talking about trauma said, actually, we know now that that's not a good thing to do, because you're actually laying down the trauma more and more and more.
So you'd never really fully probably reverse it because you keep replaying it.
Yeah, exactly. So you may be kind of getting used to it, but you're not.
You're not getting rid of it.
You're not
getting
getting
rid of it.
Yeah, you're
but
not allowing it to flow where it
yeah.
naturally needs to be. You're not allowing it to update.
It's always going to have some sort
Yeah.
of control over you, like, yeah.
So is the use of CBT being reduced now?
Oh God, no.
No.
No. CBT is like the gold standard treatment
Okay.
for all anxiety disorders. It's really, really good, and it's really effective. It was a personal choice with me
Right.
that I
Okay.
wanted to try and find another way.
Okay.
And in doing that and reading a lot about trauma, and while I was on my EMDR or my CBT training, one of the therapists mentioned EMDR, and I'd never heard of it. And he said, what I really recommend when you finish CBT is that you go and look up EMDR. And I listened to him, and I did. I read the books and went and did it, and I went, yeah, I think he's right. Actually, I think that's a really good approach.
And say if someone didn't know what trauma they had, or they weren't sure of what was wrong with them, would that be would the EMDR be a good way of identifying something that they maybe didn't know,
Yeah, I mean,
or do you need to know?
not
before you
really.
go- yeah.
Not really. So how it works is it's kind of we'll talk about what is the anxiety that you have right now, and then we'll do what they call a float back. So it'll be when you experience that anxiety right now. Okay, so it could be, oh, I'm going into work and I've got to meet my manager tomorrow, and I just feel so worried about what they're going to say. I'm having my appraisal. I feel sick. I feel anxious. So you might say to someone, okay, just kind of close your eyes. Just notice, where do you feel this? And what's the fear, and what seems true about you? And it could be, he's going to give out to me. He's going to make me feel like I'm really bad at my job. And that could be the belief. So you might say, okay, notice that feeling of not feeling good enough with the anxiety that you feel in your body, and just float back and tell me the first time you ever remember feeling that way. So we have to work with the past, the present, and the future with EMDR. So the past is, where did this start? We don't come out of the womb being afraid of things. We learn to be scared of things.
So are you trying to, sorry to interrupt, are you trying to highlight like the parts that are in your shadow?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's the touchstone, that's where it comes from. So it could be they float back to a time when a teacher gave out to them in class and shamed them in front of everyone, or they were struggling with their homework. Could be anything. Could be in a job where they had a really difficult person. Could be when they were small and they were bullied. You can take them back to any point And then that's when we'll say, okay, so when you think about that now, what do you get? And so we have to do EMDR as therapists. We have to practice it when we're doing it. And mine took me back to a time in school. So I had this real problem with a manager in work. I was really anxious every time I was around them and had to go and speak to them. And I used that as an example. So we were all used as guinea pigs in our training. And I said, yeah, I do. Like, I have a real fear of authority. I find it really hard. And we floated back to a teacher in school who was hitting me at the table in front of all of my peers.
Stop.
And I was in floods of tears.
Oh, gee.
And
How did they get away with that back then? I just don't know.
And did you like let people know that was happening, or were you just too afraid?
well, in the moment,
With that the teacher was hitting you, like?
But what were you not?
Well, everyone
there
was seeing
people,
it.
Yeah, people were there.
she was
Oh, sure,
just,
that's right, yeah.
she was an angry woman.
God,
She was saying, what's 0 plus 0? And I kept saying 1. And she kept belting me on the back.
that
What's
is-
0 plus 0? And boom.
Wow.
And I was just then coming up with, like, I was on another, coming up with all sorts of, like, I just couldn't get it. I couldn't.
Yeah, sure. Who would be able to come up with the
Talk
right
about
answer?
being out your window of tolerance.
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrendous. It was horrendous. She just put fear and terror in us. Fear and terror.
Gosh.
Yeah. And so that's what came up for me. And I remember crying and crying and crying in this, thinking, oh my God, I'm on this training course. But everyone was in floods of tears. We all have it. We all have our stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really cleared. So now I'm really able to kind of go and speak to managers or people in authority, and you get a level of whatever, but not to the point where I was just couldn't do it.
And you didn't make that connection until.
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you don't always make the
no, you
connections.
don't. No.
You know, you just know that you have it.
Yeah.
And then we did, she said, does anyone have a phobia of anything? So I said, well, I'm kind of terrified of mice. I'm really scared of mice. Like, if I knew there was a mouse in the house, I just wouldn't be staying in the house by myself.
I wouldn't be. Yeah, neither would I.
Yeah. And so they did the float back. And I was thinking, well, there's absolutely no memories. Like, I have no memories of anything. And this memory came up that I had no idea existed in my brain, of 2 big hands holding a mouse. And then they put the mouse on my head.
Oh no. Kieran, your mother'd hate that.
And I was gone hysterical. And anyway, they cleared it and whatever. And wouldn't be too bothered now about mice.
No.
No. It definitely took away the phobia of it. Like, they wouldn't terrify me like they used to. And I think it was my dad, actually,
Who was holding
who
them
was
out?
holding the mouse, yeah. But my dad died when I was 3.5, so I have absolutely no memories of him whatsoever.
None.
None. But I have a feeling. I have no evidence. I just have this idea, feeling that I think this is my dad.
Go
I remember
away.
that coming up in the memory. I think it's my dad doing it, being silly and daft, but I was terrified.
Wow. And like
So-
to have that, and you were like so young, like then when he passed.
I would have only been probably like 3 in that memory. Like, it's incredible how far back the
And was it
float
very
backs can take
visual,
you.
the float back?
Really, really visual, yeah. And part of me was like, did I make that up in my head? Was I? But I know, no. Like, lots of people now that I do float backs with, they will be, I'd forgotten completely about that memory. I haven't thought about that memory in years and years.
That's
So
amazing.
it's amazing. When you go with the body will take you where it needs to go. If you listen. Because we'll have an idea of, oh, I think this is from that. And a lot of therapists will want to take over and be telling you, but, you know, you have to pull back a little bit and let the person go where they feel it. Because the mind is doing it, the brain is doing it, the memory, the neural networks will take them straight back to where it is.
But
and
if
when
you-
you have it, then that's gold. You go with that.
Okay, but if you're questioning yourself, is the approach to, okay, if you're not sure, like, tune into your body. What is your body telling you? Because your body isn't going to lie, essentially. If you're feeling a sensation, is that what you tune into? If you're kind of thinking, oh, well, is it that? Is it this? Is it what? And you're maybe too much in your head. Do you need to drop down
I
into
would
your
say,
body?
Yeah, I'd be saying, okay, just kind of notice where you're feeling this in your body. Guide someone back to where they're feeling it. And take, because lots of people when they're in therapy will be in their heads. You know, makes
Yeah.
sense, doesn't it? So it can be hard to start to kind of do that, and it takes practice. But once people are in therapy for a while, they're really good at it. And they know what it is I'm wanting them to do or what the process is.
I think as a society, we're terrible at being in tune with our bodies. I think we've all totally dissociated with it, and we all live in our heads all of the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's you're nearly like learning a brand new skill. There's probably less people who are actually in tune with their body than there is, you know, people who are just caught in their head. I'd say most people are caught in their head all of the time.
Yeah. And I suppose the body can be a really scary place to be.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be there.
Especially if you're holding trauma and
Yeah.
a part of the coping mechanism. Would you say a part of the coping mechanism is shutting it
Yeah,
off and
100%.
throwing it back into
Yeah.
your shadow self?
Yeah. Yeah. If something's too painful, people won't want to go there. It's an amazing, our bodies are incredible at protecting us, and our minds are incredible at protecting us.
Have you had people that have come in with like pains in their body, joints wise and stuff like that, and kind of release trauma and the pain to go?
I haven't, but I know the teaching that we've been told, and there is a pain protocol for EMDR. Yeah. We actually had it on our last supervision. There was a lady who was in a car accident, and they got her to brace holding the steering wheel and then relax and do eye movement, relax into eye movement. And the pain was reduced because there was such tension held in the body all the time.
So can you give me like a bit of a description of the eye movement? Or is there a certain distance the eyes have to travel?
So we would want the full sweep left to right.
Okay.
So you can't be looking down, you can't be looking up, you have to kind of look straight. And you just do a full eye sweep left to right.
Keeping your head still.
Yeah. So we use a wand, you use marks on the wall. You can get people to close their eyes and do hand slaps, taps on their knees, or there's the butterfly hug. It's the left to right stimulation, but we know the eye movement is the most effective for really difficult traumas.
And the speed of the eye movement, is it like really I know it's like rapid eye movement, but like...
We want to go fairly fast because we know the faster you go, the quicker you get the release and the stress release or the response to the disturbance goes down. Sometimes people can't tolerate that. So it just depends. It's kind of individual to the person. And then when you are putting in the new memory that I'm alive, I survived, it's okay. Or I know I can cope. It's really tough, but I know I can deal with it. Or I'm learning to manage it. Then you slow it down and you do nice slow butterfly hugs.
So when you've done, say, the rapid eye movement, can you feel in your body that you know that, okay, I have, say, detached from identifying as the feeling?
Yeah, so what you're doing with someone is you'll say, okay, so you do eye movement, and then you take a break and you say, what do you get now? And they'll say, I still feel really anxious. This is awful. Still feel like I'm going to die. Go, okay, keep going with it. So you do eye movement again. You take a break and you say, what do you get now? And they'll say, okay, I feel you're going with the body. So you're not changing the thought.
Yes.
That's CBT. EMDR is with the body. What do you
okay.
get now? And they'll say, okay, it's not so bad. Go again. And we either go high, medium, or low, or numbers. So out of 10, what's the disturbance now? When you think about being in that car accident. So right now, 10 out of 10. And then it'll go down to 9, maybe 8, 5. Where do you get it? Where do you feel it? Where do you notice it? And we want to get it down to 0, but sometimes you don't always, depending on the type of trauma that you're dealing with. So you want to get it as low as possible. And then the belief about that, so what do you think now? Are you going to die? And be like, no, I survived. You say, okay, go with that. So you update the memory. Yeah, I survived. It's okay. And then
someone could stay at a 10 for weeks on end, could they?
How do you mean?
Like you say you want to get it down to 1. So
Oh, yeah.
they're still feeling a 10.
Usually in the first session, you'll get it down, yeah.
Okay.
Depending on if there's, so you have complex trauma, which is a lot of traumas repeated. And then single incident trauma is maybe a car accident or one attack or being robbed or someone breaking into your house or being attacked, but you've had no other trauma like that. So it really depends on which trauma you're talking about. Think about the army, think about the Navy going into war, think about the trauma that they're seeing. That's really complex trauma where they'll have a lot of flashbacks and a lot of PTSD and complex PTSD. So you may not get someone down from a 10 in one session to as you won't, in, you know, depending on, you may get it down to maybe a 3, maybe a 4, depending on.
Still good going in one session, like.
Yeah. The eye movement definitely brings relief. Like, you may not change the belief, but you will definitely take down the distress.
The intensity sort of goes
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You just mentioned complex PTSD there. In terms of childhood complex PTSD, what sort of things would fall into that category?
What do you mean?
What sort of events, we'll say, I know there's probably loads, but would a child have to go through to be classified as having complex PTSD? You know?
Well, it's more in the presentation and the symptoms, or how people diagnose with a DMS-5
Okay.
as to whether it's complex. It wouldn't be based on because you've been through this, then you're complex, or because you've, you know, it wouldn't,
Yes.
it would be more how you're presenting.
Okay.
But like what we're talking about is several traumas throughout someone's life.
Okay, so they can be anything. It's just a multiple
So-
amount.
A child could experience severe neglect, then they could suffer abuse from a neighbour, then they could be in school and be bullied. You know, so there's lots of different experiences.
It's like an
held in the same
accumulation of them.
existence. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's repeated. It's the repetition of the trauma.
Okay. And do you do DBT?
Yeah, I was part of the DBT team in Mayo Mental Health Services, but I kind of haven't been able to at the minute because I just haven't had time in my working schedule.
What's DBT?
Dialectal behavioural therapy. So dialectal behavioural therapy is, a good way to describe it is like it's the magpie of all the really good therapies. So it's CBT, really CBT informed, but it does a lot of emotional work. So it deals with dealing with your emotions, your ability to communicate, your ability to manage distress. So there's distress tolerance, interpersonal effectiveness, mindfulness skills, and the CBT skills, like how you think and how you feel. So it's a huge mixed bag of loads of different skills. It's provided in a group, so it's over 6 months. There's comprehensive DBT where you go to the group once a week for 6 months and you get a therapist in that week as well. So you have a therapy session and a group session, or the skills only where you just go to the group. And it's mostly for, you know, people who would be diagnosed with emotional dysregulation. So difficulty managing emotions, and being able to kind of express those emotions. They might have some self-harm ideation. You know, it's really, really, really horrible place for people to be, and it is an effective therapy. Like, I have seen really good outcomes with it, DBT. But it's not something you can get private. I think it's only under the HSC at the minute. And Mayo
Okay,
Mental Health
right.
Services, we're really lucky. We have a brilliant team there at the minute, full of CBT therapists and psychologists and clinical nurse specialists. They're really, really good.
Excellent. And is there anyone or that wouldn't be eligible for EMDR?
I don't think so.
It would cover
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, I really don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. I think it would cover. I mean, it's just an all-rounder therapy because, I mean, you know, we all have our stuff and our things that we don't want to feel or believe about ourselves. Some of it is based on false beliefs, you know, unhelpful. You know, kind of stop you living your life and do the things that you want to do. And we talk about this more adaptive belief about yourself that I can do it. I'm not a bad person. I don't mean to harm people. I made a mistake. You know, all those kind of things. We're often shamed into you did that and now you're the worst person ever.
Yeah.
So EMDR would help you to kind of be a lot more compassionate towards yourself. I think that's something I talk about a lot, is that we're not very compassionate to ourselves.
No.
Definitely not.
We were
And
talking
need
about
to get
this
better.
earlier. Yeah.
We need to get better.
A lot better, yeah.
Yeah.
But do you
Yeah.
think is that because it like when we were in school, it wasn't taught. You know, as kids growing up, you know, there was a lot of you're fine.
But you're nearly considered arrogant if you're talking good about yourself. Like,
They're pure cocky.
yeah, do you know,
I definitely think it has got better now, but
Yeah.
I don't know if, like, we weren't taught it in school or anything like that.
I know. I really feel there should be massive approach, particularly with CBT in schools. I've been saying this for a long time.
Are they doing anything in schools at the minute?
There is some, like loads of parents come up and ask me all the time, would I go in and do talks?
Yeah.
And then they go and they ask and they come back and they say, oh, there's some company coming in doing something, but I don't know what they're doing or what, I have no idea. But I know when I was doing CBT training, we have to do CBT, we have to use all the models and methods on ourselves as therapists. That's what you have to do. And it's life-changing what you think and figure out about yourself. And I just kept saying, how is this not in schools?
Should be like.
Because they teach us so much in schools that you don't ever use again. But like the whole education system could really be flipped on its head and teach kids how to communicate better, teach kids how to emotionally regulate, or to even validate their feelings and to be able to speak about them and notice that, okay, I feel like this, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel this way and not blame themselves for that.
Yeah.
But even to learn about that. But like, you know, there's so much that you don't get taught in school, even like how to be an adult. You know, you're just thrown into the deep end and off you go there now,
I think for me, when it comes to CBT, it's more about understanding. So it's not about learn about yourself and change yourself. It's more, that's why I think that way. Okay.
To be able to
that's
observe.
social anxiety. So that's why I'm feeling anxious when I'm in social situations. Or, okay, right, that is OCD. Or this is panic. A lot of kids have panic and have anxiety. It's an epidemic since COVID. And learning and understanding what is panic disorder, what is anxiety, why do we have it, where does it come from, why does it exist? Learning about depression. What do we do when we're depressed? What is it?
Because familiar with yourself rather than trying to change yourself.
This is what it is. I think there's huge relief when I do skills group where I work and I do education on what is social anxiety, what is OCD, what is stress, why does that make us vulnerable to becoming unwell. It's not that everyone is an expert then in what to do. It's the hope that it gives them of, it's that aha moment of
to be able to notice it in themselves.
So that's it,
Okay.
right? And then the hope comes, and then the desire for change, and maybe taking self-responsibility and doing that. Do you know? And I think we take away a lot of responsibility from kids, and you know, people are great at figuring things out when you explain to them what they need to do. Or
when they
why
understand
why that's happening. It's the understanding. And then that in itself can be huge therapy. And I think if it was just taught in schools, just that, like this is anxiety, this is stress, this is how we tend to behave when we're stressed, and this is things that can be helpful. This is OCD, this is panic, this is what people do when they're depressed, this is what it looks like. You know, people are great at figuring it out themselves.
Yeah, it would be massively beneficial to put it into schools.
That point in kids' life when they have a rush of hormones, there's massive brain development happening in teenagers, and developmentally there's a huge desire to want to be in the tribe. That's what we were as Stone Age people. Our brains develop so that we're able to do the right things at the right time, and as teenagers we have to be part of the tribe. We want to fit in. That desire to fit in is so strong in their brains that people going, just be yourself. Well, that's really hard when your brain is designed to be telling you to fit in. So giving people skills to help cope and manage that, and even that understanding of your brain right now is wired to want to fit in and be with people and be like everyone else. But that's okay. You won't always feel this way. This is just a point in your life. So give yourself a break. Practice self-compassion. Do you know what I mean? And then it's kind of just an easier, kinder, more gentle way to be. Because we get panicked as parents. Oh, I fix, have to do something. I can't have my child distressed. But why not? There's a lot of learning in that.
Let them surf the urge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned the window of tolerance there. Now, I'm familiar with the window of tolerance, but if you were to explain to the listeners, again, for them to understand how to notice when they're out of their window, or I suppose explain what the window is and kind of help them be able to identify when they're either side of their window.
So the window of tolerance is this space. I always explain it like a ladder, and we're constantly going up and down this ladder. So when I'm okay is when I'm somewhere in the middle of the ladder, this window of tolerance. I'm within it, I can feel calm, I feel quite relaxed, I can think clearly, I can rest, I can eat comfortably, I can sleep okay, I'm okay. But when I'm outside of my window of tolerance, maybe I'm quite agitated, or I'm frustrated, or I'm angry, I'm not sleeping. I might be high, I might be quite elated, I might be thinking, oh, I'm top of the world, I go out and buy anything, do anything. Or I might be completely flat, low, depressed. So the bottom of the ladder is the flat, low, depressed, down, and the top of the ladder, top is high, elated, angry, frustrated. And the window of tolerance is when we're just okay, we're functioning, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you.
So then we'll say for people who, okay, they can now recognize that that's the window of tolerance. But if we were to try and expand the window, so what sort of tools and skills would you advise to people that's maybe accessible to them at home right now that they could do to expand their window?
So how I work with window of tolerance is I use the stress vulnerability model. I never tell people what this would be great for you, do this, because what's good for me mightn't be good for someone else, and then it can start to make them feel like it's not going to work and I'm not going to be okay. So the stress vulnerability model is based on a bucket. So it says we have this empty bucket, and we all have a level of cement at the bottom of the bucket, and that's our past trauma. So maybe I was bullied in school, or my teacher would be cement in my bucket.
Yeah.
And everyone has different levels of cement depending on the type of trauma that they've had, or the difficulty in life, adversities, childhood adverse experiences that they've had. So then that creates a certain amount of space in the bucket to be able to hold water. So if that overflows, we call that's when you're going to have symptoms. So when the bucket is overflowing, you're having symptoms, maybe that I'm agitated, I'm not sleeping great. If I have, different mental health disorders, maybe if I've got psychosis, I might start hearing voices. If I have bipolar, I might become elated. If I'm depressed, I might be taken to the bed, might be avoiding people and not kind of getting out of the house. So they're my symptoms. So what you start to do is learn to put holes in the bucket. So the holes in the bucket don't change the amount of stress that's in your life, because life is stressful. There's going to be things happen. We don't have a lot of control over that. And you can fix the symptoms, but if you're not fixing the amount of water in the bucket, it's kind of nearly an impossible, cycle. So putting holes in the bucket is, what do you do that you really enjoy? So what you do might be different to what Kieran does, might be different to what I do. So what is it that you like? And then we go back to your values, like what's important to you? What matters? What makes you feel good? Who are the people that
That's
you
good.
really
I like
feel
that.
good
Yeah,
about?
I like
because that's the principle,
Yeah.
but the same principle applies to everyone.
It's it's different.
Yeah, but what
Yeah.
you do with that principle is applicable to you,
Yeah.
and so on. But
Yeah.
if everyone can remember that principle, that
Yeah.
okay, you want to try and fill your life with more things that you enjoy. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And that, like if someone asked me to go and start running half marathon, I'd be like, I'd probably be depressed. I couldn't imagine anything worse for me. But if someone said to me, oh, let's go and do a lovely mindfulness retreat, or let's go down and have a sea swim.
That
There was a
puts the
time in
holes
my
your
life I
bucket
would have
then,
been, are you joking? So again, it's always evolving.
Yes,
It's always
yeah.
evolving. We're always finding things that we really like. Like for me, to just go for a walk would be heaven. To have a bath, to watch your favourite movie, to call someone that really cares about you, and you know that they're going to be there for you if you need, just that kind of bit of self-compassion. If I'm feeling quite low or flat, then just have a break, go to bed, take an afternoon to yourself. Why not, if you can?
Just on that point, as you said, if you can, I find a lot of people, especially parents, will say, I can't do that because I have X, Y, I have all
Yeah.
these things to do. And then they put themselves to the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're not actually able to be a good parent. I don't want to say that, but you know what I mean? If you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
So I think highlighting the importance of doing these things for yourself,
Yeah.
because yes, you might be thinking you're selfish temporarily, but you're actually going to be benefiting everybody else around you as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, when I use that model to explain it, I'm using a whiteboard and I'm drawing it out and scribbling it. And when I'm saying to people, like, you have all this stress, so you can't get the kids here, there and everywhere. You can't pay for the after-school activities. You have bills coming out your eyeballs. You have to work. You're really stressed. Then you're not sleeping at night. Then your appetite's gone. What's the first thing to go? It's usually, I've no time for that walk.
Yeah.
I can't be going to that yoga class now. Forget it. I can't afford it. I can't be going
generally is the
over
thing
to
that's
meet
gonna
Sheila
make-
for
yeah.
lunch or go out for dinner. I can't be doing
Don't have
those
time for
things.
that.
No
Yeah.
time for it. And that's actually the most time that you need it. It's the most time that you need to be putting the holes in the bucket. And, you know, there's another metaphor, is putting your life jacket on. Putting your own life jacket on first, because you're not worth anything to anyone if you're sinking down to the bottom of the sea. You're not going to save anyone else. You're not going to be there. You're not going to be present. You're not going to be who you want to be. And it comes back to your values. So as parents, I always say, well, what kind of parent do you want to be? How do you want your kids to speak about you? I didn't want to say, you know, Mammy was funny. She was good crack. She lost the head sometimes. But on the whole, she was really good fun. So what does that look like? You know, how are you spending your time? Well, I'm taking them to the playground. I'm being silly. I'm being daft. But I'm getting them to bed on time. I'm doing all those things.
You need
And
to
I'm
model
also
that
taking a
behaviour,
break
yeah.
from myself,
Yeah.
because where am I going to find the energy to do that? And it always comes back to the value. So that's why you do it. You do these things because you want to be that parent, or you want to be that wife, that husband, that friend. That's why you do it. And so how do you get there is by putting holes in your bucket and taking care of yourself.
And why do you think, I know you said it comes back to the value,
Hmm.
but we'll say as a default behaviour, that's where people go. Oh, I can't do that, I've no time. You know, their own basic needs goes
Yeah.
out the window.
Yeah.
And is that just that they're not aware of their values at the time, or that they're...
Maybe.
Or,
It can
yeah.
be habits. Like we all have these habits and habitual
But do you think,
thinking.
does that link back to the fact that we're all very poor at being self-compassionate?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. And I think when you're really not feeling great, so I always say to people, like, do your stress buckets now, have it, and then stick it up somewhere in your kitchen or in your room, because when you're not feeling great, you know, your mind won't allow you to remember these things. It kind of makes your thinking smaller, your
Mental
ability
heuristics,
to cope.
isn't that what that's called? Yeah.
So if you kind of stick it up somewhere and have it, go, oh yeah, I know that makes me feel good when I go for that walk, or when I do these things, whatever it is. You know, if I go to the GA match with my friends rather than put it off, whatever it is. If I go out, and if I'm a farmer and I go out and I kind of just walk around and see the ditches and what needs to, you know, if that's your thing, if that is
See
your
the
thing,
ditches.
you know, look at the ditches and fix them up, and do you know, whatever, like, it's whatever you find important
Yeah.
and what's good for you.
But having that visual cue can be good to
Oh yeah,
break the link between being stuck in your like default behaviors
Yeah.
or your mental
Yeah.
heuristics that we
Yeah.
go back to.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is very interesting. I'm very interested in this topic. Like, I find it so fascinating. And like, I could sit here asking you questions for hours about it.
Yeah, I am too. I love it. When I first started doing CBT, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. How did I not know this? I was nursing for nearly 13 years.
And was it
14
general
years.
nursing that you were doing?
No, mental health nursing.
Oh, but what, did you not do nursing before that though?
No, mental health nursing.
Okay. Oh, so you weren't nursing at the time you went into the schizophrenia?
No, I was doing social care.
Ah, okay. Sorry, I missed that bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I went to London. Then I did mental health care. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was very like basic, you know, talk therapy.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? What's your mood like? How are you sleeping? And talking to people. But it wasn't a tool. CBT is a tool to help people to get an understanding, an open-ended question, the Socratic questioning style. So the reason I like CBT is because it's not talking at someone, you're talking with someone, and you're going, okay, so what was that like for you? How did you feel when that happened? I just remember writing down all these Socratic questions, going, these are amazing. This is what we need to all be knowing and asking our patients. Because sometimes people don't know how they're feeling, but the questions help you to kind of get there.
Does it take a toll on you then when you're, if you had like a really kind of intense session with someone, would you feel it would bother you when you'd go to your family life then? Can you
I've always,
separate
yeah,
it?
you know,
or-
I get asked that an awful lot, and actually patients ask me that an awful lot. You know, they're so lovely. They're always going, are you okay? How are you feeling after
Yeah.
all of this?
That's
Jesus, you know, what are
important
you
too, though.
thinking when you're listening to my story? You know, I'm going, I'm okay. And I've always been quite good at putting it there. That's there. And this is my home life now. I'm through the door. And I suppose our life is so busy with our 3 kids. I don't really have time to think about it, is the honest truth. There are some cases that completely melt my heart.
Really,
Yeah. you know, some cases, some people just have terrible, hard lives, and then they're the nicest people. You know, so you just want the good outcome. You just want them to have that relief, that, you know, success story, you know, and anxiety is just so difficult. You just want to be able to help them not to have that. It's just if I can just help take that out of their life so that it's more manageable and more copable. What's the word I'm looking for? Manageable and cope. Is that a word?
Copable, I wouldn't say it's a,
Don't
it's a
think it
word,
is either.
but they can cope better.
Yeah, cope better.
Yeah.
Then that's the goal. Do you know?
Yeah. Do you think that there's still a bit of a stigma around therapy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Not as much. I think it's getting better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's still a stigma about mental health. And, you know, I think it is getting better. But I think most people wouldn't want to go out shouting and screaming, I've got schizophrenia. But they didn't ask for that. And it's torturous for them. It's really, really hell. If you're hearing voices and you're seeing things and they're telling you that you're useless and you're crap and nobody cares about you all the time. Could you imagine that existence?
Oh, it would be awful.
Yeah. And then, you know, papers vilify them and it's really, really tough. So I feel really, really sorry for them. And there's no cure. You know, cancer gets all this support and funding, and heart disease and all the physical ailments. But you never see fundraising for people with schizophrenia. I know Mind are brilliant and aware, are doing fantastic jobs, but most people move away when they hear someone has schizophrenia or something like that because the papers have vilified it. But
Do you
9
think-
times out of 10, they're the nicest people.
Do you think are people confused with the terms like mental health and mental illness? Because if we think of schizophrenia, that's a mental illness. But do you find that when people hear mental health, they think of all those illnesses that are more extreme than, we'll say, if you, I don't know how to, is anxiety considered a mental illness?
If anxiety, no, I mean, anxiety is it's a normal part of emotions. That's like
Okay, yeah.
happiness being an illness. It's the same, you know, it's an emotion that we feel and it's a survival mechanism. That's why we have to feel anxiety. But when anxiety becomes a problem, it can tip into a disorder. So panic
Okay, yes.
disorder is an anxiety disorder. OCD is an anxiety disorder. GAD is an anxiety disorder. You know, they turn into then disorders that interfere and interrupt and cause you problems in your life.
Yeah, so to say
So anxiety is normal. We need
Yeah.
it. We'd
Well, we
never,
need-
we wouldn't be here. If we didn't have anxiety, we wouldn't study. We wouldn't be able to have driven to get here. We need anxiety. It's really, really important. That's another thing I'd love to teach kids in school. You need anxiety. That makes you a great player on the pitch. It makes you strive to do better. It makes you run from danger. It's amazing. It's brilliant.
You need to be able to manage it.
Yeah, just understand it.
Yeah.
Sit with it. Notice it. What's it telling you?
But that term anxiety, it's a very broad term. Like you've listed out different disorders there
Yeah.
that don't actually have the word anxiety in it. But I think people just instantly have this negative connotations around that word anxiety.
Yeah, yeah. Because I suppose if it was a great feeling, then we you know, we're not here talking about happiness, are we?
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
damn happiness that I just
Yeah.
felt yesterday.
Oh,
Bloody
gosh.
hell. Why did I feel, you know? It's like the negative emotions are like Velcro, they get stuck. And the positive emotions are like silk, they just float away. And that's where I think that whole concept of gratitude, it gets you to tune into the good stuff. Because we constantly are designed to tune into the bad stuff.
We're wired though, aren't
We're
we, to
wired.
focus on the negative
Yeah,
first?
we are. That's a survival mechanism. Because if we didn't, you know, we wouldn't avoid the danger or know not to go back to it again or avoid that place where we experienced it. So it's a safety mechanism.
Yeah. Like the body and brain is very intelligent. Like it's always trying to keep us safe.
Totally. Yeah.
So if there was anything that you'd
Your
like...
body will
Oh,
never
sorry.
harm you. This is another thing I
Yeah.
always say to people. Your body will never, ever harm you. It's not designed to do that. What harms us is disease. So sometimes when people are experiencing panic, they think their heart's going to stop, they're going to lose their breath, they're going to faint or collapse, or they're going to die, or anxiety will kill me. Prolonged stress and anxiety can cause disease, okay? But in a moment, it can't kill you. It's trying to keep you alive. That's what you have to remember. So when people are experiencing anxiety attacks, I always say, this is your body trying to keep you safe. This is your mind trying to figure out a way for you to be okay. But it won't harm you.
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
it's not going to kill you.
Like a breathing technique would probably be helpful in that situation. Would it? To like
Do you mean an anxiety attack?
in an anxiety, yeah.
It can, yeah, but it's more like the philosophy around, you know, the treatment of panic in CBT is it's not the situation, it's what your mind is telling you in the situation. So if you're telling yourself I'm going to collapse, you're going to feel worse. If you're telling yourself, oh my God, this is a nightmare and everyone's looking at me, you're going to feel worse.
It's all based on your perception, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes. So it's what you say to yourself in those moments. You can say, I'm going to be okay, this will pass, take a breath. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people eye roll at me when I say that. They're like, yeah, right, Pearl, you see what you like when you're on the pitch and, you know, you can hardly get your breath and your heart's racing.
Yeah.
It is like, it's a maintenance cycle. And the brain is brilliant at unlearning old habits. So you can, you know, it's like that unhelpful friend. I always use that metaphor. We've got an unhelpful friend and a really helpful friend. So an unhelpful friend would be beside you going, oh my God, this is it. Oh my God, we're going to die. Jesus, oh my God. Like, would that help you in a crisis situation? No.
No.
It's all your fault. You got us here. Whereas if you have a friend who just goes, look, take a breath. You're going to be okay. It's fine. I'm with you. How are you going to feel?
A lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot better. Yeah.
So it's really what we say to ourselves.
So if you had to give our listeners, say, three actionable things that they could do for themselves right now at home to try and maybe understand themselves better, increase their sense of self-awareness and practice more self-compassion, what would you say?
Well, there's a lot in that now.
Sorry.
There's a whole few
shebang.
therapy sessions in that. And, I think do what you love and do more of it. And it's okay to do that. Talk to people. Talk to your friends and your family. Open up, because that's really important. And I definitely think exercise, some form of exercise, be it yoga, walking, it's just so important. Really, really important. You know, all the usual, you're looking after your diet. Those things, they do matter. They make a huge difference.
They're all really
Yeah.
accessible.
Yeah.
You know, they're all
Yeah.
you can do. Like
Do you know what's one thing there that you didn't say that I'm trying to get more people to actively do is to write?
Do you know, as you were asking the question, I was like, I'm going to say keep a diary.
Journaling, yeah.
Keep a journal. You know, they're really, really beneficial, but just having a conscious awareness of your different thinking styles, you do need to write them down to start with. And then after that, a lot of people will say, I'm doing them in my head, Pearl, I'm doing it in my head.
Yeah, it
These
doesn't
things
work
all-
the same though.
No. Diaries are really good. They're really powerful.
Yeah.
Putting your thoughts down onto paper and kind of seeing it there. There's a lot. Like CBT is all we do. Thought records, mood diaries, activity scheduling, behaviour activation is all writing what you're doing, keeping an active profile on how you're spending your time, what your thoughts are like, what you're enjoying, how much you enjoy in that, how much you're not enjoying that.
And to be totally objective about it rather than being self-critical about something you write down.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's that unhelpful friend again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, keeping an eye on that.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's been an amazing episode. I think a lot of people are going to take a lot away from that. So, like, I've
Good, I
loved
hope
this
so.
chat. Thank you
Yeah.
so
yeah,
much
it
for
was
being
brilliant, and the tips were great too. And like, yeah,
Thanks, guys.
amazing. Thank you
Thanks
so
for having me.
much.
brilliant.
If you liked this podcast, please like and subscribe, and you can keep following us for more updates on @Below the Surface Podcast on Instagram. Catch you in the next one.